Netaji escaped from the failed vigilance of the British. The Great Escape. He reached Germany and he started working with the Axis powers, including Germany, in order to seek help to free his for the country's independence. He broadcasted from time to time from Germany, from Rome, in order to inspire, in order to infuse enthusiasm among the Indians and people abroad, among Indians in India and those who were staying abroad in many countries. His sole purpose was to awaken the Indian community and the people who could help India to gain the freedom, because he believed that non-cooperation, unless it is made full, unless it hurts the British, it will not help. Like Gandhi and others, he did not believe in compromise. He did not believe that we should negotiate, because he knew that negotiations have not led us anywhere ever since the First World War, and it is only resulted Indians losing their people, Indians losing time, and Indian losing patience. Excerpts from his broadcast from Germany regarding the Quit India movement are replicated in the following lines. Comrades, since I spoke to you last about 2 weeks ago, the movement in India has been continuing with unabated vigor and has been spreading like wildfire from the towns to the countryside. The British propaganda machinery gives an impression that the campaign is now subsiding and that things are quietening down. But as a matter of fact, every bit of news regarding India's national struggle, every incident in India, town and villages, every case of shooting, whether in Ramnath or in Wardha or in Bikrampur or in Lucknow, is immediately flashed all over the world, is broadcast over the radio and published in the press in all those countries that are neither hostile to Allied powers or are neutral. If today you could see with your own eyes and hear with your own ears all that is being propagated by your friends abroad about India's epic struggle, you would realize the measure of sympathy that India is receiving from the enemies of British imperialism. Therefore, in the fight against all the modern forms of terror and brutality, if you feel overwhelmed at any time, and if you desire your friends abroad to give you the hand of assistance, you have only to say so. But these friends who are anxious to see India free will not offer their help to you so long as you do not need it. For our national honor and self-interest, we should not ask for assistance so long as we can do without it. Do not be carried away by ideological considerations. Do not bother about internal politics of other countries, which is no concern to us. Believe me when I say that the enemies of British imperialism are our friends and allies. Comrades, you must have observed how during the last few months the British Empire has been going through the darkest hours. Gone are the days when London was metropolis of the world. Gone are the days when kings and statesmen had to wend their way to London in order to have their problems solved. Gone are the days when the American president had to come to Europe to meet the British Prime Minister. As an English poet, Tennyson has himself said, "The old order changeth, yielding place to new, and God fulfills himself in many ways. Consequently, the British Prime Minister has now to run to New York. The Indian people, particularly the leaders, should banish all hopes that Britain will accede to India's demands. They should carry out the struggle till the last Britisher is expelled from India. In the last days of our campaign, there will be much suffering and sorrow, much persecution and slaughter, much suppression and massacre. But that is the price of liberty, and it has to be paid. It is but natural that in the last hours, the Britain and the British lion will bite hard. But it is, after all, the bite of a dying lion, and we should survive it. And we shall survive it. There is no cause to be depressed because the leaders are imprisoned. On the contrary, their suffering will serve as a perpetual inspiration to the entire nation. Moreover, those who are now away from the field of action have given you the plan that has to be executed by you now. At the present moment, all the countries that are being suppressed or dominated by Britain are either in a state of revolt or are preparing for one. If we in India continue our struggle, we shall not only effect our emancipation speedily, but will also expedite the liberation of all countries exploited and dominated by Britain. On the other hand, if Indian people remain inactive, the enemies of Britain will take the initiative in expelling the British from India. The British Empire is in any case doomed, and the only question is as to what will happen to us when its final dissolution takes place. Shall we obtain our freedom as a gift from other powers, or shall we win it by our own effort? I appeal to the Jamaat-ul-Ulema, the old representative organization of the Ulemas or the Muslim Divines of India, led by that distinguished patriot and leader, Mufti Kifayat-Ullah. I appeal to Azad Muslim League, another important organization of the nationalist Muslims of India. I appeal to the Akali Dal, the leading nationalist Sikh party of India, and last but not the least, I appeal to Praja Party of Bengal, which commands the confidence of that province and is led by well-known patriots. I have no doubt if all these organizations join in this struggle, the day of India's liberation will be drawn nearer. The campaign that is now going on in India may be described as non-violent guerrilla warfare. In this guerrilla war, tactics of dispersal have to be employed. In other words, we should spread out our activities all over the country so that the British police and the military may not be able to concentrate their attack on one point. The object of this non-violent guerrilla campaign should be a twofold one. Firstly, to destroy war production in India, and secondly, to paralyze the British administration in the country. Keeping these objects in view, every section of the community should participate in the struggle. Firstly, you should stop paying all taxes that is directly or indirectly bringing revenue to the government. Secondly, workers in all industries should either launch a stay-in strike or try to hamper production by conducting a go-slow campaign inside the factories. Servants who are working in the houses of British should be organized for the purpose of giving trouble to their masters. For example, by demanding higher salaries, cooking and serving bad food and drinks, etc. Indians should give up all business with British banks, firms, insurance companies, etc. Listen to the broadcasts of Colonel Britton in the European service of the BBC and apply the Colonel's tactics to Indian situation. For the general public, I also suggest the following activities. A. Boycott all British goods, including burning of British stalls and British stores. B. Total boycott of all Britishers in India and those Indians who are pro-British. C. Holding of public meetings and demonstrations in spite of official prohibition. D. Publishing of secret bulletins and setting up of secret radio stations. D. Marching to the houses of the British government officials and demanding their departure from India, and organizing of processions for entering and occupying government offices, secretariat buildings, law courts, etc., with a view to hampering the administration. G. Arranging to punish police officers and prison officials who oppress and persecute the people. H. Erecting barricades in the streets where there is a likelihood of attack from the police and the military. I. Setting fire to police and government offices and factories which are working with war purpose. I. Interrupting postal, telegraph and telephone communications as frequently as possible in different places. K. Interrupting railways, bus and tram services wherever there is a possibility of hampering the transport of soldiers of war material. I. Destroying the police stations, railway stations and jails in isolated places. Comrades, I can assure you that as soon as this program is put into operation, the administrative machinery can be brought to a standstill. In this connection, I must remind you that in non-violent guerrilla campaign, the peasantry always plays a decisive role. I am glad to observe that in several provinces in Bihar and in central provinces, the peasants are already in the forefront. I earnestly hope that Swami Sahajanand Saraswati and other peasant leaders who, together with the forward bloc, started the fight long before Mahatma Gandhi, will now lead the campaign to victorious conclusion. I will appeal to Swami Sahajanand and the leaders of Kisan movement to come forward and fulfill their leading role in the last phase of the fight. We want Swaraj. We want Swaraj for the masses, Swaraj for the workers, Swaraj for the peasants. It is therefore the duty of workers and peasants to emerge as the vanguard of the national army at a time when the future of India is being made. It is the law of the nature that those who fight for liberty and win it will retain power and responsibility. It is gratifying to note that the clarion call of liberty has reached the ears and hearts of our soldiers at home and abroad. They have no doubt been court-martials with characteristic British brutality. But the fire is spreading from one place to another. A number of soldiers have voluntarily deserted to join Axis powers in Egypt, and they are being welcomed with open arms to them, by them. And all the Indians fighting units have been withdrawn. In conclusion, I must point out that the campaign in India should be carried out for weeks and if necessary for months. If the non-violent guerrilla war should continue sufficiently long, freedom will come because British imperialism will ultimately break down owing to the cumulative effect of defeats sustained on different fronts. Do not forget for one moment that the British Empire is now on its last legs. At the same time, be prepared for every suffering because the apostles of freedom and democracy and the authors of Atlantic Charter may do their worst in the days to come. Before dawn comes the darkest hour. Be brave and continue to struggle for freedom at hand. Let your slogans be now or never, victory or death. Inqilab Zindabad.